Hello folks, this is Miguel from the Embargo Man channel. And today we're talking about my top 10 cities for an NBA franchise. So this is gonna be my top 10 cities. Some are new franchise or the relaunch of a franchise, but there's also gonna be relocation of three teams to one of the three teams of the Canadas of Toronto, Charlotte, and New Orleans, and a renaming of a new team, and there's gonna be a relocation of a team in California moving to Las Vegas, and a renaming of another team. But I'm gonna tell you that it's gonna be two is gonna be outside the U.S. It's gonna be all the teams of the NBA in North America. Two outside the U.S. The rest are in the U.S. So two out of 10, two are outside the U.S. and the rest the 8 are in the U.S. And starting with number 10 outside the U.S. is gonna be Montreal. Okay, why Montreal? So the name for the team is gonna be all French related because Montreal's in Canada and it's outside the US. Montreal's in Canada, and they have the cons would be the Canucks and the CFL, another CFL team. All right, so what it is hockey most likely, but the perfect name for that is got to be French related. You heard about the Three Musketeers. That's a French tale or something like that. Or Three Musketeers gonna be the Montreal Musketeers. Why the Montreal Musketeers? Because of the tale of the Three Musketeers, and the reason to be called the Montreal Musketeers. And what is the pros in this? In this to entering another franchise in Canada is because when they enter a new NBA franchise in Canada, in a French-speaking region, in a non-English-speaking region of Canada, to be called, I don't know how they call Musketeers in French, but the Montreal Musketeers would be the perfect name. And then we're gonna start within the U.S. Number 9 would be Austin. And the name of the team, Austin, Texas, don't have an NBA franchise. And they have, I don't know of the Longhorns, right? But then Longhorn football, Longhorns college basketball, who knows, right? But it's going to be called the Austin Lone Stars, right? Why Austin? Because you have San Antonio has the Spurs, Dallas have Mavericks, Houston has the Rockets, but another team in Texas, in Austin, Texas. So as Austin is the capital of Texas, the Austin Lone Stars would be the perfect name for that. Cons would be, there's gonna be football, or probably college football or college basketball, who knows? But yes, Austin would be the place, would be, the Austin Lone Star would be the perfect name. And going to number 8 is Louisville, Kentucky. Number 8 is more to be talked about, right? So Louisville, Kentucky would be called the Louisville Colonels. The Louisville Colonels, right? The Louisville Colonels because of Colonel Sanders, right? So the arena will be played at Yum Brands. Louisville, Kentucky would be the Louisville Colonels, right? So the Louisville Colonels would be a perfect name for it. And now they have cons would have other sports reacting. Or no, they didn't. It will be no. There's no cons in there. But the only thing that is going to happen in Louisville, Kentucky is that, you know, they're gonna receive with open arms the NBA team, but they have their college basketball. There's like the pros and cons would be okay. And number 7 is Cincinnati. So this is in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Cincinnati has no NBA team, right? So why Cincinnati, Ohio? So they used to have the Royals back then. Now for Cincinnati, the team, you know, the only thing that might just have in common is the Cincinnati Bengals in football, Cincinnati Reds in baseball. But another name for the team would be the Cincinnati Rangers. Well, Cincinnati Rangers would be an odd name. Will also be because the other team that I'm talking about moving to Las Vegas, they should have relocation to Las Vegas, starting in have a team in Cincinnati, right? So Cincinnati Rangers would be a perfect name for an NBA franchise. And Cincinnati is gonna be a brand new team, and number 6 will be going to number 6 is gonna be a relocation of an LA team. Number 6 is gonna be Anaheim. Why Anaheim, California, right? So Los Angeles, you know, everybody in LA are more of a die-hard fan of the Los Angeles Clippers. So, the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers are like the top team in LA. So Anaheim, California, instead of moving the Clippers from Los Angeles to Anaheim to be called the Anaheim Clippers. Why the Anaheim Clippers? So what's the pros and cons in that? So LA will have playing in their Staples Center. The Los Angeles Lakers will play in the Staples Center. Well, the Anaheim Clippers will have a new stadium. Maybe it will be next to Disneyland around there. And they have their own stadium or something like that, their own arena. Could be Disney Arena or something like that. And then for Anaheim, you know, for Anaheim Clippers, it would be another plus that you could have, you know, instead of Los Angeles having 2 teams, you have a team moving from. This is similar like moving from Los Angeles to Anaheim. This is similar like what happened in the NFL with the Los Angeles Rangers. They moved from Los Angeles to Oakland. Now they're in Las Vegas, but you know, this is a situation we're going. And the number 5 city, top 10 cities on the list of an NBA franchise would be. This one is outside the U.S. also, Vancouver. So what's going to happen with the relaunch of the Vancouver Grizzlies is that Memphis will rename the old Grizzlies, right? So I remember when Vancouver used to have the Grizzlies for a few years, right? And it's from 1996 or 1995 to 2001, five years in Vancouver, the old Grizzlies. So they moved to Memphis, but then Vancouver receiving another team, they're gonna relaunch the Grizzlies, and the old Grizzlies will become the Memphis Blues. And what is the odd things of all this? This is something similar to what have happened to Charlotte, and when they lost the Charlotte Hornets, they relaunched they came out with the Bobcats, and they renamed it the Bobcats to Hornets, and the old Hornets became the Pelicans. The same thing was gonna happen to Vancouver, relaunching the Grizzlies, and the old Grizzlies becomes the Memphis Blues. That's the reason why it's gonna rename. Number 4 is St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, St. Louis have the Cardinals, right? So they have the St. Louis Cardinals, and they have the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball, right? So, and probably they might have a football team, right? Probably they have a football team, right? You know, they used to have the St. Louis Rams. I remember that. So now what's going on? What happened with this? What would be the name for the St. Louis NBA franchise? Would be the St. Louis Spirit, right? So this is a relaunch of another team back in the day. Call it St. Louis Spirit. It'll be great. You know, it'll be like the St. Louis Spirit is going to be relaunched. It's a brand new franchise. And what's going to happen with the St. Louis Spirit is going to be, you know, the pros is they're going to go in there. Cons would be baseball and the Cardinals. You know, who knows? That's about it. Probably I could remember the St. Louis Rams, but they no longer in St. Louis. They moved to Los Angeles. But I mean, baseball will be like another, you know, and probably they might have a hockey team called probably St. Louis Blues or something in the NHL. But number 3 would be another California team that's supposed to be relocated. Would be number 3. The number 3 city of my top 10 NBA cities would be Las Vegas. And this time is going to be the relocation of the Sacramento Kings, right? Why the relocation of the Sacramento Kings, right? So another team in California. We don't need it. I mean, Californians already have the Los Angeles Lakers, the Anaheim Clippers, and that's about it. And the Golden State Warriors. 3 teams. And then we need to move this one. And the Kings would be the perfect candidate to move to Las Vegas. And they should be called the Las Vegas Kings. Why the Las Vegas Kings, right? So, Kings are like part of royalty, but also the kings in the deck of cards. You know that Las Vegas is all the gambling capital of the world, you know. Or I'm gonna call it the place where people spend their money stupidly, the capital of spending money stupidly in the world. The capital of spending money stupidly because they spend money on gambling. So play poker, whatever, you know. The king of the deck of cards, the Las Vegas Kings. And what is going to be next going to be the number 2 city. Number 2 city on the list for an NBA franchise. Well, this is just a particular YouTuber she lives in LA, but this is her hometown. And yes, I read her book. She's awesome. And number 2 city on the list for an NBA franchise is Pittsburgh. Why choose Pittsburgh as number 2 on the list, right? So what's going to happen is this. Three teams. I mean, people, you know, that you know, choose, you know, you heard of the Raptors. Who knows? But this is a different situation with Raptors. But there's 3 teams that are supposed to be relocated, but in compromise. This is the same what happened with Charlotte. This is the same thing that what happened with the Browns in the NFL, and yet, you know, the Browns moved to Baltimore, and they recall it the Ravens, and then the relaunch the Browns, and it's a whole different story. The same thing with the NBA with the Charlotte Hornets. The they've moved to New Orleans Pelicans. Bobcats rename it to. But this is just the three teams that I said to have like losing or relocating a team, and then Pittsburgh is number 2 because they're gonna be one of the three teams, but one of the teams would rename their team, and that is going to be named after one of the top U.S. auto manufacturers, to be named after one of the coolest cars made one by a top U.S. manufacturer, and is one of the big three. All right, so what's going to happen is I'm gonna go to this one, the other one, after I name the number 2 city on the list, that is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So the 76ers will have a rivalry from one of the three teams that are going to move there. Or, it would be the Penn State rivalry. This is the best. This is going to be the best rivalry since the Subway Series in baseball, since the New York Yankees against the Mets. This is some kind of sort. There is an NBA rivalry with two teams from New York, the Knicks from New York and the Nets from Brooklyn, right? So I said number 2 on the list because what's going to happen is that one particular YouTuber would be so amazed about this team relocating of one of the three teams. All right, so the first team I'm going to mention to be relocated would be the Raptors. Okay, if the Raptors relocate from Toronto to Pittsburgh, then the Raptors will relaunch a new team, or relaunch a team that has been folded since from 1946 to 47, around there. But they're gonna relaunch the Huskies, right? So relaunching the Huskies. So it's gonna be what's going to happen with the Raptors moving to Pittsburgh would be, a yellow and black F-22 Raptors, or black with yellow stripes F-22 Raptors from the 9/11th, from the 9/11th Air Squadron, flying over the PPG Paints Arena, flying over there to salute, to welcome the Raptors to the new home, right? So it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna salute the Raptors, and probably the uniform is gonna be, sponsored by a condiment. Which condiment you're talking about? You're talking about Heinz ketchup. There it is. Boom, you got it. You know where they're going. Their uniforms are gonna be black and yellow, of how the people in Pittsburgh represents. But let me tell you what it is, right? Pittsburgh will be the Seattle of the East Coast. Just like in Seattle, they want their Sonics back. So the Seattle of the East Coast, that was gonna be. So Pittsburgh is the Seattle on the East Coast when you bring on the NBA franchise, but we're talking about the Raptors, right? So the Raptors relocating to Pittsburgh, and the Toronto and Toronto relaunching the Toronto Huskies. So what's going to happen in there? That's going to be the the 9/11 Squadron will send up the F-22 Raptors airplanes. That is the F-22 Raptors flying over, passing by the new arena that the Raptors are going to play when they're relocating Pittsburgh, the PPG Paints Arena. I don't know if it still exists, or I don't know what's going on right there. But then what's going to happen if they receive it? People in Toronto, I don't know how they're gonna feel, but then for the Raptors to be relocating and the reintroduction of the Huskies. It's gonna be like that. No renaming, none of that stuff. It's gonna stay the same. And if Toronto wanna keep the Raptors, another team that might be relocated will be the Charlotte Hornets. So the Charlotte Hornets, remember, that means the classic Charlotte Hornets logo from the first Hornets, and they moved to New Orleans, right? Then they call it Hornets the Pelicans. Well, that logo is gonna be back, but the Hornets are bees. They're actually bees. Hornets are actually bees. So the Hornet mascot, just like the 1988 original Hornets mascot, is gonna be black and yellow, like a yellow hornet with black stripes, true colors that represents the town of Pittsburgh. So what's going on is this, that that they're gonna receive the Hornets with open arms. I mean, it's like that. And then what's going on is that they changed up to the classic logo, but it's gonna have, instead of an H, it's gonna have a P to represent the city. But it have an H, but then it says Pittsburgh in it. That's gonna be the Pittsburgh Hornets. So the Pittsburgh Hornets will be the next team to be relocated. I mean, the next team that from relocating from Charlotte to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then you still have that rivalry between the 76ers, Penn State rivalry, right? So what's going on is this, that Charlotte, if they don't want to lose their team, they're gonna have a new team. It's gonna be called the Charlotte Jaguars, right? So Charlotte is gonna have the Jaguars, as the Hornets are gonna be called Hornets. We're gonna be called Pittsburgh Hornets. Then is going to be like, but I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna be settled in with these three teams after I go to the number one team for the NBA franchise. So what's going on is that, that people in Charlotte or the Hornets are not, giving a good shot, But let me tell you, if there's gonna be any of the three teams, what's gonna happen, that the Hornets would call, after the relocation, they will call big name teams, probably LeBron James, right, to play, and Luka Connors, right? So and KD and all that stuff. So what's going to happen with the Hornets relocating to Pittsburgh, and when they relocate, they're gonna just kick ass, right? So it's gonna be a kick ass team. As I'm gonna tell you, if the Hornets were to relocate from Charlotte to Pittsburgh, and they're gonna receive the Jaguars. The Charlotte Jaguars will be a new team. It's gonna be cat team, not the Bobcats, but Charlotte Jaguars. But possibly of relocating or renaming the Hornets again, I mean, that is 0% chance. But what happened if the Jaguars were like, the Charlotte Jaguars were like a kick-ass team? It would be like, yeah. And what's going on is that they're going to root for the Jaguars, even though the Hornets move to Pittsburgh. Then they'll be awesome. But if not, the next team, the third team, without renaming, there is going to be renaming of one team and relaunch of another team. And that team that is going to choose that they're going to have Utah to rename a team will be the New Orleans Pelicans, right? The New Orleans Pelicans, right? So what is it with the New Orleans Pelicans, right? So it's not enough to say that, you know, back then the New Orleans used to have the Jazz before they moved into Utah, right? So they moved to Pittsburgh and gonna be called the Pittsburgh Pelicans. What's gonna be so strange is gonna be a pelican is a warm weather bird, and they're gonna play in the same arena where they have a hockey team that is a cold weather bird, right? So the Penguins, right? So Pelicans, Penguins, Pelicans playing this in the home of the Penguins, and whatsoever. So two birds playing in one stadium. So that's gonna be, or the PPG Paints Arena. That's gonna be all two bird teams playing. One is a hockey team from a cold weather bird. The other one's a basketball team from a warm weather bird, right? So what's going on is the relaunch of the New Orleans Jazz, and renaming a team that is going to be renaming the old Jazz into one car in particular. This is made by the Ford Motor Company and is going to be called the Salt Lake City Mustangs. Why are they going to be called the Salt Lake City Mustangs? Why? Because after all this, after relocating the Pelicans from New Orleans to Pittsburgh, New Orleans relaunches the Jazz. The Utah Jazz, the old Jazz, become the Salt Lake City Mustangs. All you're gonna have is Salt Lake City Mustangs. Probably, who knows? Probably Ford Motor Company, or they have the uniforms that makes the car, the Mustang car, and that's it. There you have it. You have Salt Lake City Mustangs, New Orleans Jazz, and the Pittsburgh Pelicans, right? So I don't know, that would be a good idea in somebody's Washington, if it's somebody from over there living in LA, in California, traveling, going to Apple events, going to Microsoft, going everywhere. You know about your hometown having a team, and why I'm mentioning number 2. So I say I'm mentioning number 2 team to be Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because let me tell you, out of all these 3 teams that is going to be relocated, right? So what's going to happen is that LeBron James will play for his last games, or his last final. We're going to retire as a Raptor, as a Hornet, or as a Pelican. And then you have Luka, who plays for the Dallas Mavericks, going to playing for one of the 3 teams that are gonna relocate to Pittsburgh, right? So, and you have KD, and you have they're gonna be forming like the relaunch or the spiritual successor of the 1990s Chicago Bulls. You can't beat them. Oh yeah, the Raptors relocated. They're the spiritual successor of the Chicago Bulls now. They relocated to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Nobody could beat them. Or the Hornets or the Pelicans. If one of those 3 teams move to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they're gonna have the rivalry, the 76ers Raptors rivalry, Penn State rivalry, the Hornets 76ers rivalry, the Pelicans and 76ers rivalry. All it is called the Penn State rivalry. 2 teams from the same state at each other for an NBA title, and it's gonna be more fun. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be very interesting. That if you comment me right there, you say, "Oh, this is cool." So what's gonna be is that what's gonna be like Pittsburgh is another town that is Then you have diehard fans that they root for their team no matter what. They root for their team even if they suck. They keep rooting for the team. So the same thing, like they root for their Steelers, they root for their Penguins, they root for their Pirates. So that's how it is in Pittsburgh. They root for the Steelers, their Pirates, their Penguins, and the NBA franchise if they come. And that's what I'm saying, that that town is gonna be like the Seattle of the East Coast until we get to the #1 city for an NBA franchise. And just get ready, and I hope you cheer up with joy that why did I mention Pittsburgh as the #2 top 10 cities of the NBA franchise, cities for an NBA franchise, is because I wonder, somebody sees this video, comments, they say, oh look, this is awesome, and might do a video top 10 cities for an NBA franchise. I mean, it's not gonna be a guy, it's gonna be a chick. And what's going on with this? She'll put it as #2 or above the #1 list, like which one is gonna be #2, right? So I would say the #1 city is gonna come up. Get ready, you'll be full of surprise, and you will say yes. Then you put your list. You put the #1 city as #2 and the #2 city on my list as #1. So here goes the #1 city for an NBA franchise. Now the #1 city for an NBA franchise would be Seattle. Why Seattle? Why? Because Seattle is another sports team. Yeah, this is Seattle, Washington. When the owner of the Seattle Sonics, who was from Oklahoma, wanted to, most likely he wanted to relocate the team to Oklahoma. So what's going on with this news? That the people in Seattle got pissed off. They weren't happy with it. So they moved the Seattle Sonics to Oklahoma City. And they changed the name from Sonics to Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder. So what's going on with this? That the people in Seattle, just like Pittsburgh, they root for their Kraken, their Seahawks, and their Mariners, right? So that's what it is. And they recently have a hockey team. So relaunching the Sonics, the Seattle Supersonics. Well, I can remember the mascot being, and probably the person you were watching there, and it's in Seattle with a Rubik's Cube as your favorite toy, and your favorite pig, part of your favorite Looney Tune character is Porky. I might just say you're gonna put Seattle as #2 on your list, but this is #1 on my list. So why is #1 in my list? Because Seattle is #1 on my list because they needed so badly. They were screaming, they were yelling, they were crying. They're gonna cry. The loudest cry they want is that they want their Sonics back. So it's gonna be very odd that, most likely, what if, this is what it is. The old, remember when they call it Seattle Supersonics, is because of a jet. I mean, of a Sonic jet, Boeing, right? Because it's based in Seattle, whatever. But this is a whole different story. And the mascot used to be the Sasquatch, right? So the Sasquatch is the mascot. But what's going to be very differently. What if Microsoft were to own or buy Sega? What's going to happen is the new mascot will be a green hedgehog. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. Out of all of them, the new mascot will be a chili dog loving hedgehog who loves chili dogs. Sonic the Hedgehog loves chili dogs, so it's gonna be a green hedgehog. And that is just in case if Microsoft were to acquire Sega, they're gonna have Sega there. Microsoft acquiring Sega, green hedgehog. Okay, makes kind of sense if Microsoft were to buy Sega. Yeah, of course it doesn't make sense. Green hedgehog. So what's going to happen is the same thing. Then I'm going to welcome the team with open arms, just like if the Raptors or the Raptors or the Hornets or the Pelicans were to be relocated. One of the three teams will be relocating to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They're gonna root for their team. They're gonna, and then what happened with Seattle, gonna root for the Sonics. Is gonna be one of the greatest moments in history. People will have this great joy to see, oh look, the Sonics are back. Yes, the Supersonics, the Seattle Sonics. This is awesome. The Sonics are back. They're gonna rock the house. They're gonna party. They're gonna just, eventually, the party's gonna be bigger in Seattle. So this is, and this is for you. You're gonna put your pick and the number 2 pick. One of the particular YouTubers, they're just putting my number 2 pick into your number 1, and this is my number 1 pick in your number 2 pick. So vice versa, why I pick Seattle, Washington, and why Seattle, and why the relaunch of the Sonics is because ever since the Sonics moved to, is this something similar to New Jersey with the Nets? I'm originally from New Jersey, but I root for Miami Heat, because I mostly live in Miami. But more for heartbreaking for Seattle, because Seattle, a very big sports city with great fans, similar to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They just root for their team, the Sonics. When they relaunch the Sonics, they'll be so happy. There are a bunch of happy campers. They're gonna even have people with tears of joy when they see this. Tears of joy. So they're gonna cry out of joy. They see the Sonics are back. The Sonics are back. The Sonics are back. The Sonics are back. So that's it with my top 10 in my top 10 cities for an NBA franchise. But it's gonna be like this: two cities and probably some relocations. So 2 expansion teams and probably relocations. So what's gonna happen is that either of these top 10 cities would be, I would say, in Seattle and Pittsburgh are my number 1 and 2 on my list. So what it is, please leave me a comment. Please subscribe to the Embargo Man channel, and most likely to the one and only person, the only YouTuber who watched this video, wanna make your own top 10 cities for an NBA franchise. So your number 1 pick of city would be my number 2 pick. Your number 2 pick city will be my number 1 pick. That is Seattle, Washington. Why did I have my number 1 pick? Because Seattle really needs it very badly. I know where you're from and why you pick your own town to be the number 1 pick. That is my number 2 pick. because I know where you're from. I read your book. I mean, this is just what you're waiting for. I have been subscribed to your channel, and I'm talking on one particular YouTuber who have 7 million subscribers, and then I would still I'll make a video about her. She is awesome. She is awesome. I mean, that's what it is. If you are subscribed to her, she'll make her list of her top 10 picks, and just wait in this scene. This is gonna be all in reverse. She'll pick her hometown as number 1. That is my number 2 picks is Pittsburgh. She put it in number 1. She put Seattle in number 2, and I don't know which one of the other of the rest of the 8 cities. I mean, this is if you are subscribed to the iJustine channel. Like this is gonna be weird when you haven't seen it in iJustine channel. You have all these 10 cities if I've gone again to mention, but the only difference is that my number 2 pick is her number 1 pick, and my number 1 pick is her number 2 pick. And see you on the next video, and that's it. And I would say this, I'm gonna say it as one of this YouTuber's number 1 Looney Tune characters. To want to put my number 2 city pick as her number 1 would be that's all, folks. See you in the next video, and take care of yourselves.